4.0, which is an automatic train protection system. The Railway Ministry is set to be speeding up the deployment of advanced Kavach 4.0 automated trains protection system across all its key routes. Now, Kavach 4.0 is an enhanced, comprehensive, technology-driven solution developed by Indian Railways to prevent accidents and ensure smooth operations of trains. Government said that all locomotives where a lower version of Kavach was installed will be replaced by an upgraded Kavach 4.0. Over 1,966 kilometers length of Indian Railways from Malda town to Dibrugarh have been identified for implementation of the new Kavach system. The implementation of Kavach 4.0 by Indian Railways across key routes is a broader initiative to modernize its infrastructure and improve safety standards. The central government has annulled the auction of over half of the 21 critical mineral blocks offered in the fourth round of bidding, citing a poor response. Now, 11 blocks failed to attract the required minimum of 3 technical qualified bidders necessary to proceed with the auction process. The success rate Ministry of Mines conducted a second round of bidding for 2 blocks that initially drew fewer than 3 technically qualified bidders. While the first round mandates at least 3 qualified bidders to advance to the financial bid stage, the second round permits progress with just 1. The 2 blocks were successfully auctioned in the second round, lifting the total number of auction blocks to a mere 10 out of 21. 4 blocks attracted no bids, while 7 blocks failed to secure the minimum 3 technical qualified bids. The sluggish pace in critical minerals auctions could dent India's critical minerals mission, which aims to secure vital resources, which is important for green energy transition as well as emerging technologies. And homegrown Indian liquor makers are exploring the possibility of approaching the Food and Beverages Regulator FSSAI for a separate standard for Indian single malt whisky. The product has gained, remember, significant traction in the global market due to growing trend of premiumization and has already won prestigious international awards. The move aims to preserve the sanctity and reputation of the Indian single malt, which is now exported to 60 countries worldwide. According to the Confederation of Indian Alcoholic Beverages Companies, producers are also considering applying for a geographical indication tag to further enhance India's single malt's credibility. In India, the sale of single malt whisky has been growing rapidly now, particularly in the world's largest whisky market, but the industry is facing challenges with emergence of smaller brands. Now, the industry body Director General pointed out that while FSSAI defines whisky as malt-based, it does not specifically define single malt, which traditionally refers to whisky produced at a single distillery. Indian distillers are keen to set clear guidelines to protect and promote the growing segment of premium whisky coming from India. And India is set to achieve record-breaking food grain production in 2025, boosted by favourable monsoon season. According to the Agriculture Ministry's early projections, Kharif food grain production for the year 24-25 crop is expected to reach 164.7 million tonnes. While this signals a strong recovery, challenges remain in both pulses and oilseeds production. Meanwhile, winter crop planting continues to progress steadily, with the wheat sown across 29 million hectares by mid of December 2024. Overall, the agriculture sector is set for a strong rebound, with growth expectations of 3.5 to 4% in the year 24-25, a significant increase from last year's growth rate of 1.4%. And those, of course, are the top stories we are tracking here at Morning Brief at 9 today. Coming up next, stocks in focus and stocks that should be in your radar after this very short break.
We are at the highest airfield in India and one of the highest airfield in the world. It is the most beautiful airfield in India. There's no aircraft that cannot land on this airfield.
This will be the highest airfield in India and 5th in the world.
This particular runway will cater for most of the military aircraft, fighters and transport landing.
A strategic edge to the forces, deterrent for our neighboring countries.
Jai Hind.
Yes, 100% completion. TV9 News and your News 9 Plus is the first team here.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
What was Dr. Manmohan Singh's approach?
Serving the nation does not come just by being a minister.
He exhibited confidence in people he knew.
His being at the helm of affairs was certainly a very calming influence.
Did his thinking on economic reform evolve after 1980s?
Yes.
He gave him a very broad perspective and vision.
Those 20 years are the formative years where India saw the kind of foundation being laid.
That was one thing that we got on our term.
India's growth story would not stop.
ऐसा ही होना चाहिए.
Start with the end in mind. You need to know where you want to reach. Every morning that we wake up, we are exercising our choice. The destiny is decided. The results are known that I'm going to win. Life of a goalkeeper is something which has always intrigued me.
When you come into a stadium, this is the highest level of pressure.
When I set out to do something, I decide in my mind that failure is not an option.
What you feel very strongly about, those are the stories to tell.
I have a mind which is absolutely restless. Mind and body are entangled sensations. That brings me back to golf. It's an amazing game.
This is not a perfect game. You only learn from them.
If you have a formula to a success, then you can replicate it.
I feel this is my first step. I'm starting now.
Winner is first born in the mind. I think, therefore I am. We are all about our mind.
Aam Aadmi Party and BJP have been running an orchestrated government here.
That's the basic thing. And the people who are suffering are the people of Delhi. Isn't it also the time for BJP to introspect?
LG has more powers in Delhi because this is essentially a national capital territory of Delhi.
If we are anti-national, why they ask for the campaign in the Delhi elections?
People in Delhi are now fed up.
Give me 3 months and I'll do it for you.
So everyone is promising moon to the people. And that's the first casualty of any TV debate.
We are at the highest airfield in India and one of the highest airfield in the world. It is the most beautiful airfield in India. There's no aircraft that cannot land on this airfield.
This will be the highest airfield in India and 5th in the world.
This particular runway will cater for most of the military aircraft, fighters and transport landing.
A strategic edge to the forces, deterrent for our neighboring countries.
Jai Hind.
Yes, 100% completion. TV9 News and your News 9 Plus is the first team here.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
The section is called The Bit of the Empire Striking Back. It is not me who said it, it's Mr. Tata who said it. And normally you don't expect him to say that because he's very polite, he's very understated. But at a weak moment in the speech in Cornell, he said India's acquisition abroad made by Tata Group is kind of the empire striking back. Please understand, Mr. Ratan Tata is a very, very patriotic man, extremely nationalistic. He had the nation's interest first and everything else second.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
India spends $75 billion on foreign cargo vessels.
$75 billion per annum. That's a lot of money.
Imagine a situation where 95% of our cargo is coming on ships which are not owned by us. If we are still not prepared, if someone were to say that we are not going to give you ships, then we'll be stuck. So the entire nation's economy is at risk.
We are very clear that shipping is also strategic, because without that you can't really be the third largest economy in the world.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. Let's quickly take a look at how stock markets are reacting this morning with flattish negative opening there. Nifty 50 down by 0.15% at 23,777 there, and Sensex down marginally by 0.04% at 78,642 levels. Nifty Midcap 100 also down slightly, 0.28% at 56,821. Nifty Small Cap at 18,697, down 0.31%. India VIX is up 3.22% at 13.67. Well, that is as far as the market's mood check is concerned at 9:20 this morning. Let's also take a look at the stocks that are in radar, the stocks that we are focusing on. While we do that, let me also introduce Akshay Bhagwat, who's also joining us here on the show. Akshay, good to have you on the show. Thank you very much for taking time out. Let me begin by asking, what are you really making of the markets this morning? Are we looking at some sort of recovery at the end of 2024?
Good morning. If you look at the volumes in the markets in the last 4 to 5 trading sessions, clearly the festive mood is evident in the trading action. Volumes are pretty dull. The price move also on the expiry day was rather dull, and it's been confined in a range plus minus 50 odd points from the 23,775 levels. But if you look at the broader placement of the markets, the rollovers which happened for the January series was still on the negative side. The technical trend is still on the negative side. The minimum requirement is that Nifty should sustain at least minimum about 24,000. That would give some kind of life to the market for a rebound. As it is currently placed, although the volumes are low, the technical setup is still weak, and the short-term scenario points to a range 23,500 the lower end of the range and 24,000 the upper end of the range. So this range-bound choppy session may continue for the next 2-3 sessions, but till market sustains about 24,000, I would advise to go light and not go aggressive on the buying front.
All right, and looking at the heat map as of this morning, let's quickly take a look at the stocks that are in focus on your screens right now. HDFC Bank at a negative of 0.32%, ICICI opening slightly positive there, SBI also negative 3%, Kotak Mahindra Bank is also down, Axis Bank is slightly up. That is as far as the banking stocks is concerned. Taking a look next at all the IT stocks currently marginally in negative. TCS down by 0.02%, Nifty down by 0.6%, HCL Tech 0.58%. Reliance Industries is also down there by 0.29%, ONGC 0.65%, so on and so forth. And below that, let's also take a look at consumer durables and automobile sector. M&M down 0.8%, Titan 0.65%, Maruti also down slightly at negative of 6.8%. So moving on from there to FMCG, which is consumer non-durable, slightly positive there. ITC up 0.34%, Hindustan Unilever at a negative of 0.29%, Nestle slightly up, and other stocks as well slightly up. Non-energy mineral sector is also witnessing some sort of uptick there, with Ultratech Cement up 0.5%, GSW negative of 0.6%. A mixed bag there on your screens right now as far as all those stocks that we are tracking at this morning is concerned. But let's focus on one stock that we are tracking today, and that is Ola Electric. Akshay, now two top executives of Ola Electric have stepped down. Suvanil Chatterjee, Chief Technology Officer as well as Product Officer, officially resigned on Friday as per company's exchange filing. Both had long associations with Ola, starting at Ola Cabs before transitioning to Ola Electric. Chatterjee joined in 2017 and then later became the head of marketing in 2018. Ola is down. Seem to have added to a growing list of senior exits from Ola. The last time we spoke on the show, you were fairly bullish on Ola. Do you maintain that position today?
Well, for Ola Electric, the news which you have just briefed is a negative development if you are considering from a short-term trading perspective. One of the reasons had been in a range on the price action front in the range of 90 to 100, and this has been almost for 10 to 15 trading sessions. So today's opening is clearly a gap down, breach of the support zone of the range which I mentioned. So clearly the short-term development is negative in wake of the news and also in wake of the technical price breakdown which I just mentioned about. So we are possibly heading to the lower end of around 75 to 77 odd levels. That is the lower end support, and that is the short-term target. So if anyone has a buy position on an investment perspective, the suggestion is still to hold, because no long-term damage is yet seen on the charts. But from a short-term perspective, if you have bought, exited and reconsider buying on dips around the 75 mark.
All right. In fact, another stock that we are tracking is JSW Energy, which has made its biggest acquisition yet, buying O2 Power, a renewable energy platform, for 12,468 crore rupees. The deal boosts JSW's generation capacity by 23%, taking it from 20,000 odd megawatts to 24,000, a major step in its growth journey. Now, JSW Energy, Akshay, has taken a beating in the last 5 sessions and has fallen over 8.5%. Do you think this mega deal could help reverse the course of the stock and its fortunes?
Well, the deal news looks positive, but the price action doesn't suggest so, because if you look at the opening tick in the stock, clearly there is a price breakdown. When I mean a breakdown, it is a head and shoulder negative bearish pattern which is seen on the charts, and that's on the daily charts, which promises a significant downside if you follow this chart pattern. So as of now, I would suggest not to buy this stock. There is clearly a breach of the level of 640, which we saw last trading session. Today it's gap up because of the news, but I would suggest let there be some kind of a stability, let this counter kind of cool down. Once it settles around the levels of 640 or 650, then a review is needed. But the minimum criteria for this pattern to negate is somewhere above the levels of 680. So if anyone has bought the shares, keep a stop loss at 625 and hold, because the news is positive. But if you consider buying it afresh, then wait for some kind of stability above 680 before committing your long bids.
And there's been a sharp recovery, a gap up opening as far as that stock is concerned, Akshay. Up 5% this morning. So markets there taking kindly to that new acquisition by JSW Energy. But let's move on to Tata Motors now. The leaders in India passenger EV market says it plans to tackle competition with extended range. Its upcoming EVs will offer at least 500 kilometers on a single charge. The MD of Tata Motor Passenger Vehicles and Electric Mobility said, according to media reports. Now, after nearly 40% correction, Akshay, we saw Tata Motors from the stock. The stock is showing signs of recovery and is on a 3-day gaining streak. How's this one looking on the price charts for you as far as Tata Motors is concerned and its promise in the EV portfolio?
Well, Tata Motors for the last 3 months, if I were to look at the price charts, it's been a pain point for the investors and traders on the buy side because it has fairly corrected from the levels of 1150 odd levels to 750 where it trades today. Now, if I look at the price patterns, it is highly oversold. Somewhere there is an attempt being made by the stock to form a short-term trading bottom. Probably the estimation as of now is somewhere around 720, 710 should be the anticipated range where the stock may find a support or may find a short-term trading bottom. So the process of formation of a support is in progress. Still, there is no clear evident sign that a support is intact in place. So I would suggest that let the support form. As of now, it is still in a negative trading zone. The levels to watch in the stock should be resistance of 770, 770 and the support roughly of around 715. So if you want to buy the stock, let it at least sustain above 770. If not, make an attempt to buy the stock around 715. But somewhere I believe the levels of 715, 720 should be a short-term support base for Tata Motors, from where you can anticipate some recovery till the levels of 800 in the month of January.
All right, let's also quickly move to Hero MotoCorp now, which is strengthening its ties with Harley Davidson. The company plans to introduce new variants of Harley, a X440, and collaborate on developing an all-new motorcycle, signaling deeper collaborations between the two brands. Like Tata Motors, Hero MotoCorp, come to think of it, Akshay too has taken a massive beating from its highs, falling over 30%. But unlike Tata Motors, it's not showing any signs. Your take on this stock?
Well, majority of the auto stocks have taken a beating in the last couple of months, and Hero MotoCorp is no exception. One-way downtrend in place, and clearly the fall in this stock going with the price action is much steeper compared to its peers. And if you were to hunt for supports where the stock may possibly find a kind of a rebound, the support zone is nearing. It is somewhere in the range of around 4200 to 4150. So my sense is 4200, 4150 might be the support in the making. It's too early to comment whether the prices would rebound or not at the anticipated level. But going by the technical price reading, there is a chance that the supports which I've mentioned should see some kind of buying interest once the stock touches those levels. So just 40-50 points away from support, there's where you can attempt a trading buy position with a strict stop loss below 3950. A rebound attempt from the support should see the stock staging a rebound near the levels of 4600.
All right, that is as far as Hero MotoCorp is concerned. Another stock in our radar is Fortis Healthcare, which has appointed Leo Puri as the new chairman of the board of directors effective of 27th of December 2024. Now, Puri, an independent director, will guide company's strategic direction, will focus on innovation, growth, and strengthening its leadership in the healthcare industry. Unlike most of the stocks we discussed today, Akshay, Fortis has witnessed strong rally this year, rising over 60% year to date.
Fortis has...
Yes, please.
So Fortis has seen a one-way journey. For 2023 has been a fabulous year for the stock. I believe 60% plus gains, as you rightly mentioned. And looking at the current price structure too, there seems no stopping the stock because the last 6-7 trading sessions have been kind of range bound, but this just seems like a breather which the stock is taking before it resumes its momentum. So I'm going by the price projections. I still believe there is still more upside to go. Probably 7 780 to 800 should be the upside in the making for Fortis Healthcare. So if any positions are on the long side or the buy side in this stock, continue to hold for targets of 780 to 800 from a short to medium term perspective. If one considers this stock for trading too, you can buy at current levels. Support is around 660 and the target projection is around 780.
All right. In fact, the stock is up today, 0.68% as we speak. So the markets there taking kindly to the news of Puri's appointment. But shifting focus now, and our final stock in the radar, Reliance Industries, which via its subsidiary, Reliance Strategic Business Ventures, has acquired oncology platform Karkinos for 375 crore rupees. The deal completed through a share allotment strengthens Reliance Healthcare portfolio. Now, Karkinos specializes in technology-driven cancer detection and management and reported a turnover of 22 crore rupees in financial year 22-23. After 2 weeks of correction, Akshay, shares of Reliance Industries witnessed some upside last week, surging over 1%. What are the price levels on one should track Reliance today?
Reliance has been in a downtrend. This downtrend kicked off from levels of 1600. The trend continues to be weak. It is just that we believe somewhere or the other this stock should form a support considering the highly oversold parameters. Now exactly where it bounces is the question mark, because at least there is no signal as of now that a major support is in the making. Yes, from a trading perspective, short-term perspective, the area of 1200 to 1220 is a zone where you can anticipate some bit of a pullback considering the highly oversold nature of the stock, but this is temporary. Still, there are no concrete visible signs of strong support in place. So if one is keen on the investment or long-term perspective, I would suggest still give it a wait, let the stock show some formation of support. As of now, going by the prices, the levels which I mentioned, 1200, 1220 are for traders who want to attempt to buy on oversold parameters. For investors, I believe 1160 odd levels should be the support in the making going ahead.
All right. That is as far as Reliance Industries is concerned. Akshay Bhagwat, thank you very much for taking time out for joining us. Those, of course, are some of the stocks in our radar. Thank you for taking time and for sharing your perspective. And up next is a very special segment. Amid growing outrage on social media over 18% goods and service tax on caramelized popcorn, government sources clarified that popcorn served in theatres will continue to attract previous GST rate of 5%. So non-packaged, non-pre-packaged platform popcorn, both caramelized and sweet popcorn will continue to attract 5% GST. Official sources explain that popcorn typically served in loose form at theatres will remain subject to 5% rate as it is considered part of restaurant services and is supplied separately from cinema exhibition service. Popcorn pre-packaged will continue to attract a GST of 12%. So the popcorn debate seems to be now heating up with a lot of consumers really angry on why should there be a discrimination as far as their favorite popcorn is concerned. To really talk about the debate around popcorn, we are being joined. Chirag is with us on the show. Chirag, thank you very much for taking time out. I think no better person to really help us understand what is the debate around tax on popcorn and why are people so miffed with the GST changes?
Hi. So I think what has happened is I think there was a lot of there was lack of clarity when it comes to snacking as a category, and especially when popcorn as a category as well, right? So I think recently government has come out where they've clarified taxes on extruded snacks recently, and now they've actually clarified on the popcorn also. I think the good thing is at least there's clarification, because I think the way some of the laws are written around GST, there was lack of clarification of how certain products are being taxed, right? And especially like a simpler product like popcorn, still there was no clarification how it should be taxed. So I think good thing which has come out is there's clarity now, at least for the popcorn category. I think where the consumers have been, questioning is why there's the two different taxes on savory versus caramelized. I think I leave that to the government because I think they better understand the laws. But I actually welcome that there is clarity now. There's no questions around popcorn taxes going into 2025. Certainly, I think there is government concerns over how much sugar a product should have and how much extra tax a sugar should attract. But I think that's a larger question which gets clarified over a period of time.
And, to the larger question of what consumers are feeling, and is it fair to tax the same product differently based on its packaging and flavor? And I'm talking about non-caramelized popcorn here, such as 5% for loose popcorn, 18% and 12% for caramelized as well as savory popcorn. Is it fair to have such distinction today?
So I think the difference between cinemas where it is sold loose versus where it's sold packaged food in FMCG industry, I think cinemas have been looked as a very different industry, similar to a restaurant industry, right? Where the taxation is completely different from an FMCG perspective. So I think that's where there's a difference of taxes. I think all restaurants and cinemas are being taxed 5% irrespective of the products, right? So I think it's not right to compare two different industries, FMCG and it happens for all the product. It's not specific to popcorns, right? So if you come across any other product also, similar differentiation is there because where the product is being served. So I think it just got amplified by the whole social media that popcorn and cinema versus packaged food has been taxed differently. But if you go to a restaurant, your beverages, your food, gets taxed very different from a packaged food industry. So that's been happening for ages now.
Okay.
In this category.
Okay, and I don't know if you've been on social media of late, but this has resulted in some sort of a meme fest on X and various other social media platforms. There's one more caveat that I wanted to clarify with you, Chirag, which is when popcorn is sold with a movie ticket, it is taxed at ticket's GST rate. Does this also create unnecessary confusion for consumers and businesses?
I mean, yes, I think the whole question around taxes is there's a lot of complexity right now still in India, right? The intent of GST was to keep taxes very simple, taxes very straightforward. I think still there's a lot of complexity in our tax ecosystem, right? That's something government needs to get forward and, clarify and make it simplified, right? So even the consumers, even the brands like us, even the brand owners, they have clarity of what is happening in the market. Right, too much ifs and buts in the taxes create complexity. If you go internationally to a lot of countries, the taxation is very simple, right? Whereas in India, still, I think it's almost 7 years now, 8 years now since GST has been into place. I think still there is a lot of such confusions, right? I think that needs to be clarified going forward. Good popcorn clarification has come, but I think in future, similar clarification should be more frequent. More consistency around it should be happening.
Okay. And so you mentioned that you're happy that at least there is clarity now, but varying GST rates on popcorn also leads to challenges for vendors, small businesses in theatres, multiplexes, people who are small retailers. They're really confused on what is packaged, what is non-packaged. Would it be right that the layering of taxes and from 5% to 12% to 18%, now that has created some sort of confusion for small businesses?
I mean, yes. I mean, it's still better than a week ago, because week ago there was still more confusion, right? Because as we as a brand was taxing very differently, right? So there was still a lot of confusion before. I think now with the clear mandate, it's more clarified for everyone. I think once the law is out, because the law is still not out on paper from the government, I think once it is out, I think everybody will follow it rigorously, and just there should be a clarification. Okay, if you're serving it here, this. So I think once it is out, it should be clarified. I think it's much better than 10 days before, I would say.
Okay, and I have to ask, it's an elephant in the room. Somebody who pre-packages popcorns, do you fear losing customers? Do you think customers who now know for a fact that a pre-packaged popcorn is going to cost us more are likely to go for non-pre-packaged, popcorn?
I think it just got glorified by the whole memes on the social media. Now people asking this question. I think it's been happening around us all the time. If you go to a restaurant, you still get taxed for 5%. And if you have a similar product outside in a packaged food, there's a different taxes on the product. I think it just got glorified by the whole memes which are going around. And I think there's a lot of memes around sugar versus non-sugar products. I think so. I think it's good movement marketing for the popcorn category. I would say a lot of people now got educated about the popcorn as a category now. I think popcorn was always seen as a cinema product, always seen as a product which was served in an entertainment format. But now I think larger audiences getting aware there's a packaged product of popcorn which is now available. So I think I would say it is very good for the industry as popcorn as a category. If you look at some of the numbers, right, popcorn as an industry of snack within the snacking category is almost 6% in US kind of a market. In India, still it is like 0.03%, which is very small. So I think consumer knowledge about the category has just amplified in the last few weeks. I think good for the industry, but I think it's a good step from the government. I think more such clarifications more frequently will help consumers and brand going in the right direction.
Okay, and what sort of impact are you anticipating? I have to ask now that there is clarity, what is the impact you are anticipating on your sales?
So I think there could be a short-term impact where on all the platforms where we are selling, I think people were seeing an uptrend, especially for the caramel popcorn, because everybody thought it's getting expensive, so buy it now. So I think in a short term, yes, but I think then long term, popcorn as a category still needs to buy its share from the chips category, nachos category, all other similar snacking categories to build into a large category in itself. But I think, yes, in the short term, we did some sampling with some of the consumers around caramel popcorn, and everybody's reaction was, hey, we got caramel popcorn for free, right? And everybody was happy that they're getting an expensive product for free because it's been taxed in 18%. But I think it's a short-term thing. I think it will die down that whole euphoria in a few days. But I think overall, I think there's a lot of awareness around popcorn as a category which has happened due to this. And I think in the longer run, I think if we do well and other brands do well, I think popcorn as a category has a longer legs.
Absolutely. I think the brand success of 4700 BC is a testament that popcorn as an entity to be consumed, a consumable product, is underrated. There is so much more potential there. Right. Chirag Gupta, thank you very much for taking time out. Thank you for joining us here on Newsline.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And time for a short break now. We'll be back with more global stories we are tracking here at Morning Brief at 9. Stay tuned.
If it's a cancer, then what?
It's very distressing.
Anyone can have cancer.
Mentality है कि ये बीमारी मुझे नहीं हो सकती. There's a thing called cancer is right inside me.
सबसे पहले जो होता है ना, डर जो होता है कि now at the end of the world.
My life went upside down.
Stigma associated with it, which is very scary.
In our country, more than 14 lakh people get diagnosed with cancer every year. Out of that, more than 9 lakhs die every year because of cancer.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Welcome back. In a tragic incident in South Korea, a Jeju Air flight crashed into a barrier in Muan International Airport, claiming lives of most of 181 people on board. The government is now grappling with the enormity of a devastating loss. Authorities are working to determine the cause of the crash as the country mourns this heartbreaking tragedy.
South Korea's acting president Choi Sung-mok held an emergency meeting in Seoul on Sunday to discuss the country's deadliest air disaster just 2 days into his new job.
불의의 사고로 희생되신 분들의 명복을 빌며
As the acting head of the government responsible for the safety and lives of our residents, I feel an indescribable sorrow and profound regret, he said.
이루 말할 수 없는 비통함과 송구한 마음입니다.
Choi visited Muan International Airport before the meeting, where most of the 181 people on board a Jeju Air flight died, South Korea's transport ministry said. Video shows the plane belly landing and skidding down the runway before crashing into navigation equipment and a wall in an explosion of flames and debris. Some South Koreans worry the crash, which the transport ministry calls the deadliest air accident on South Korean soil, could be mishandled amidst the country's ongoing political turmoil. Choi, South Korea's finance minister, became acting leader Friday night after Prime Minister Han Duck-soo was impeached. South Korea's parliament impeached Han less than 2 weeks after suspending President Yoon Suk-yeol over his short-lived attempt to impose martial law. The bewildering turnover left the government scrambling when Sunday's crash occurred. With the presidency vacant and with things like this happening, I am quite concerned that the handling may not go smoothly, says this resident. I'm feeling more anxious, he adds. This resident says he's uncertain whether the government can effectively perform its duties. Behind the scenes, government offices were still figuring out the chain of command and how press statements would be released, a ministry spokesperson and 4 officials told Reuters. A senior finance ministry official said it's still undecided who, if anyone, from Yoon's and Han's offices would report to Choi. Choi is leading the centralized disaster control team instead of the prime minister, who would typically be in charge, an official said. Choi on Sunday declared Muan County a special disaster zone and said the government will provide all necessary support needed.
And that unfortunate incident has now claimed nearly 180 lives. Well, that's all we have on Morning Brief at 9. News and updates will continue on the other side. Keep watching News 9.
India spends $75 billion on foreign cargo vessels.
$71 billion per annum. That's a lot of money.
Imagine a situation where 95% of our cargo is coming on ships which are not owned by us. If we are still not prepared, if someone were to say that we are not going to give you ships, then we'll be stuck. So the entire nation's economy is at risk.
We are very